Specifically about Hillary, why do you think she's uniquely qualified for the job of president?
She has spent 4 years as the foreign policy guru for the United States.
In her tenure as Secretary of State, what would you point to as her biggest accomplishment? What do you think her greatest accomplishment as Secretary of State was?
Oh my goodness.
Is there one moment of her tenure as Secretary of State that you point to and say, you know, that really impressed me?
I think there's probably 100 moments.
Okay.
I'm not trying to avoid the question.
No.
In particular, I honestly don't know to answer your question.
That's all right.
But I thoroughly believe that there's a reason that Obama put her there.
What would you say is her biggest accomplishment as Secretary of State?
Actually, it's maybe more of she didn't create a problem, let's just put it that way.
You know, we are a little bit more at ease, you know, with our folk in the Middle East.
It's not so much that she did a lot of things, it was that she didn't screw up.
Exactly.
High bar, people. High bar.
She was one of the most well-traveled, if not the most well-traveled Secretary of States in our history.
I've been in African countries.
She's so well traveled. She's so well experienced around the world.
I have been in Asian countries.
Like Mrs. Clinton, I too have traveled hundreds of thousands of miles around the globe. But unlike Mrs. Clinton, I know that flying is an activity. It is not an accomplishment. Mrs. Clinton, if you want to stump a Democrat, ask them to name an accomplishment of Mrs. Clinton.
What did she accomplish that you consider significant as Secretary of State?
Secretary of State? I really can't name anything off the top of my head.
Give me a minute. Give me 2 minutes to go someplace else.
Okay, Christina, can you think of something that she accomplished as Secretary of State that impressed you or thinks important?
No.
She's not perfect. But she's been in the eye for a long time, in the public's eye, and you're going to have some stuff on her. But, you know, she has great policies and she knows how to get stuff done.
What do you think is her greatest achievement as Secretary of State?
I'm not really sure. I'm not that into politics.
I don't know. It's a tough question. I don't know. I really don't know.
Definitely not the Benghazi ordeal. Right?
Whoa. I have no clue. There's just so many. Just the fact that she's been such a world leader and just recognized all over as doing so many great things. Like, I don't even know that I could pick a single accomplishment.
What do you think is her greatest achievement as Secretary of State?
Well, she didn't have that many before she gave up that role.
When you think about all of the foreign policy issues that have come up over the years, I don't think foreign policy was really a huge issue under President Obama and during her term as Secretary of State. To be honest, I mean, compared to a lot of secretaries, she's not going to be remembered for a whole lot of major things, just because I don't think we were doing a whole lot on the foreign policy front.
As Secretary of State, she has just done a great job in not letting things deteriorate. Honestly, I'm not very up to date with politics, but I know she hasn't made a major mistake, and that would definitely be an accomplishment.
And the way she handled Benghazi was remarkably adept at international affairs, so I really respect her for that.
So you think probably Benghazi is one of her best accomplishments?
I mean, no accomplishment is without fail, but I think that it ranks pretty high up on the level of emergency that it presented and how well it was handled. So yeah, I would definitely say that Benghazi is her high point.
What would you say are the 3 biggest accomplishments as Secretary Clinton when she was Secretary of State?
In the first term, we were able to bring to conclusion 2 long and costly wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, and she was very much involved in supporting those transitions. In the president's first term also, we initiated and now have sustained what we call the rebalance to Asia, the Asia Pacific, where we have substantially increased our security commitment, our economic engagement. We've been, as you well know, negotiating the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement to bring that to fruition, to obtaining trade promotion authority from Congress. That's another significant accomplishment. And we have launched critical initiatives that have been life-saving in the realm of health and food security, and Power Africa, which is an electricity initiative.
You certainly did take a lot of fire from the Republicans at the CNN debate last night. I assume you watched it, especially from the lone female candidate up on the stage, Carly Fiorina. She said if you want to stump a Democrat, she said, ask them about Hillary Clinton's accomplishments as Secretary of State. If you were on that debate stage with her, what would you say was your #1 accomplishment as Secretary of State?
You know, Wolf, I didn't get to see all of their debate, but I saw enough of it to know that this is just the usual back and forth political attacks, the kinds of things you say when you're on a debate stage and you really don't have much else to say. I didn't hear anything from any of them about how they're going to make college more affordable or get down student debt or get equal pay for equal work for women, what they're going to do to make sure that we deal with the challenges of raising incomes for hardworking people. So I don't really pay a lot of attention to this kind of rhetoric that heats up the debate stage. They're all trying to vie for more attention from, obviously, the Republican Party. I'm going to let them decide how best to do it. But if anybody's interested, you know, there's a long list about what I have done, and I'm very proud of it.
When you look at your time as Secretary of State, what are you most proud of? And what do you feel was unfinished, maybe love to have another crack at one day?
Well, I really see, that was good.
Just sort of sigh.
That's why he wins prizes. Look, I really see my role as secretary, and in fact leadership in general in a democracy, as a relay race. I mean, you run the best race you can run, you hand off the baton. Some of what hasn't been finished may go on to be finished. I'm very proud of the stabilization and the, you know, really solid leadership that the administration provided, that I think now leads us to be able to deal with problems like Ukraine, because we're not so worried about a massive collapse in Europe and China trying to figure out what to do with their bond holdings and all the problems we were obsessed with. I think we really restored American leadership in the best sense, that, you know, once again, people began to rely on us, to look at us as, you know, setting the values, setting the standards. I just don't want to lose that because we have a, you know, dysfunctional political situation in Washington. And then, of course, a lot of particulars, but I am finishing my book, so you'll be able to read all about it.